1:15 p.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavela and read by Geethanjali Ramanayaka. The headlines. The Pali and Buddhist University will be reopened only under the guidance and the instructions of the Mahanayaka Theros. 3 new categories of visa will be introduced for the investors of the Colombo port city. Cabinet approval has been granted for the establishment of the Sri Lanka Institution of Economics and Trade Institute. The SLBC says that they will face the upcoming local government election under a strong alliance. A systematic plan has been implemented to increase the power generation capacity of the country. Foreign News Capital Riot Committee seeks 4 criminal charges for Trump. In sports, Lionel Messi named BBC Sports Personalities World Sports Star of the Year. News in detail. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that the Pali and Buddhist University will be reopened only under the guidance and the instructions of the Mahanayaka Theros and the Mahasangha. The university has now closed down due to incidents reported regarding ragging and some disciplinary issues. The university was established as a center to spread Theravada Buddhism and to create a disciplined student and monk society. Meanwhile, the minister, responding to a question raised by a journalist, said that public representatives are now ready for the local government elections. The minister added that the party will compete the election with a strong alliance. SLBC, UNP and other political parties have also been instructed to their representatives to prepare in this regard. Cabinet approval has been granted for the establishment of the Sri Lanka Institution of Economics and Trade. It is essential for the members of the Parliament as well as the government officers to obtain training on economic and trade activities so that entering into decisions with an understanding is possible when formulating national policies and implementing them. Therefore, it has been recognized as appropriate that the entity named Sri Lanka Institution of Economic and Trade be an established institute to enable provisions of necessary facilities. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the resolution furnished by the Honourable President to instruct the legal draftsman to draft a bill for the establishment of Sri Lanka Institution of Economic and Trade. Cabinet approval has also been granted to establish a training centre for Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau in the Monragala district. No office or a training centre of SLFEB has been in operation in the Monragala district, while the training centre alongside the Monragala-Bibila highway, which is under the supervision of the Department of Divinaguma, is suitable for establishing a district training centre for Sri Lanka Foreign Employment Bureau. It may be possible to provide the required training facilities for foreign employment seekers in low-income families in the district of Monragala. Issuance of visa and fulfilling other relevant activities to the investors and other relevant parties expected to arrive for various services that is expected to be established in the Colombo port city should be done by the Department of Immigration and Emigration. Accordingly, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval to the proposal furnished by the Minister of Public Security to take necessary steps to introduce following visa categories subject to the recommendations of the Colombo Port City Commission. Investment visa category will be given for investors under residential visa category. Employment visa for employees, CPC residential property lease vendor visa category for foreigners who reside within the Colombo port city on lease will be given under this new mechanism. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. A systematic plan has been implemented to increase the power generation capacity of the country. The government has planned to utilize sustainable energy to its maximum. The support of the private sector will also be sought in this regard. The government hopes to add more power to the national grid from the sustainable energy during 2023 and 2026 time period. 333 projects will be implemented in this regard. Speaking at a program, an SLBC General Manager of the Ceylon Electricity Board, Rohana Seniviratna, says that 2,500 megawatts of power is expected to add to the national grid using modern technological renewable power generation methods. China has gifted Sri Lanka school uniform material worth 5 billion rupees. The Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka said the school uniform material will be handed over to millions of Sri Lankan students. The embassy noted that the material will meet 70% of the country's requirement in 2023. Furthermore, the first batch of 3 million meters of finished material in 3.8 million boxes will be transported via 20 containers. The shipment has left China for Sri Lanka. And that ends local news for now.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
In the main news story, with steady increase in vessels calling at the Hambantota International Port and the port's industrial park attracting numerous FDI projects, Hambantota International Port has tied up with the Royal Electronics Private Limited to establish a duty-free shop in their bonded area. The agreement was signed last week and the new facility will be open for operations in the first quarter of 2023. The Hambantota International Port is also positioning itself for cruise ship tourism and is expected to triple calls in 2023.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Let's celebrate Christmas and New Year with CIB with special gifts, discounts and easy payment schemes available till 31st of December. Come to CIB today.
The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka has approved power cuts of 2 hours and 20 minutes from today to the 22nd. That's Thursday. Accordingly, the power cuts will be 1 hour during the daytime and 1 hour and 20 minutes during night.
Let's celebrate Christmas and New Year with CIB with special gifts, discounts and easy payment schemes available till 31st of December. Come to CIB today.
World News brought to you by courtesy of
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines. Capitol Riot Committee seeks 4 criminal charges for Trump. Ukraine to boost Belarus border defenses as Putin meets Lukashenko. And baby's life probably saved by umbilical stem cells. World News in detail. A U.S. congressional inquiry into last year's Capitol riot says ex-President Donald Trump should face criminal charges including insurrection. The Democratic-led committee voted unanimously for the Justice Department to prosecute Mr. Trump. The panel also aired a new clip of former Trump aide Hope Hicks on her warning to him about his legacy. Trump supporters stormed Congress on 6 January 2021, interrupting Joe Biden's certification as president. Mr. Trump, who denies any wrongdoing, released a statement slamming the panel as a kangaroo court. Ukraine is tightening up the defense of its border with Belarus over fears that Russia may be preparing a fresh attack, the government official has said. Deputy Interior Minister Yevhen Yenin told the BBC Ukraine would be bolstering the Belarusian border with armed forces and ammunition. The news came as Vladimir Putin traveled to Minsk to meet Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. Belarus shared a border with Russia as well as Ukraine. A heart surgeon says he probably saved the life of a baby by carrying out a world-first operation using stem cells from placentas. Professor Massimo Caputo from the British Heart Institute used pioneering stem cell scaffolding to correct baby Finlay's heart defect. He hopes to develop the technology so children born with congenital cardiac disease won't need as many operations. Finlay, now 2, is now a happy-growing little baby boy, but he was born with the main arteries in his heart the wrong way round and at just 4 days old had his first open-heart surgery at Bristol Royal Hospital for Children. Back to the headlines of the world news. Capitol Riot Committee seeks 4 criminal charges for Trump. Ukraine to boost Belarus border defenses as Putin meets Lukashenko. And baby's life probably saved by umbilical stem cells.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
On to development news. Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited and the Civil Aviation Authority have donated around 2 billion rupees towards the government's consolidated fund. The relevant cheque was handed over to the President yesterday. This amount includes 1 billion rupees from Sri Lanka Ports Authority, 500 million rupees each from the Airport and Aviation Services Sri Lanka Private Limited and the Civil Aviation Authority.
Development news.
That was development news, and now moving on to sports news. Argentina's World Cup winning captain Lionel Messi has now named BBC Sports Personality World Sports Star of the Year for 2022. Messi, 35, led Argentina to their first World Cup triumph in 36 years in Qatar. German forward won the tournament's Golden Ball awarded to the best player after scoring 7 goals at his 5th World Cup. The former Barcelona star is widely acknowledged as one of the greatest footballers of all time. Messi scored twice in the World Cup final and also converted a penalty in the shootout as Argentina beat holders France 4-2 on penalties following a thrilling 3-all draw. 3 Kenyan athletes have been banned for a collective period of 8 years after breaking anti-doping rules. The Athletics Integrity Unit has banned marathon runners Alice Jepkemboy Kimutai and Johnston Kibet Mayo for 3 years and sprinter Mark Otino for 2. Otino, 29, tested positive for the banned anabolic steroid methasterone moments before the 100-meter heats at the Tokyo Olympic Games. It meant he was not allowed to compete. And that was sports news.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Arrangements have been made to distribute compensation of 457 million rupees to the farmers who suffered crop damage during the 2021-2022 Maha season by the Agriculture and Agrarian Insurance Board using funds allocated by the government. Taking into account the damage caused to the crops during drought, floods and wild elephants, the Agricultural and Agrarian Insurance Board has taken steps to provide compensation to 38,613 farmers for 42,934 acres. The Anuradhapura district will receive the highest amount of compensation under this program.
Business News. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Economic news, courtesy of
LONC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LONC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
European Union nations have agreed to cap soaring wholesale gas prices to protect consumers across the bloc. From 15th February, prices will be limited if they breach 180 euros per megawatt hour for 3 days running. It follows weeks of wrangling in which Germany and others sought safeguard to ensure the cap would be suspended if it had negative consequences. Gas prices have spiked as EU countries seek ways to import less Russian gas following its invasion of Ukraine.
LONC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LONC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LONC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
Weather Report.
Northeast monsoon condition is gradually establishing over the island. Showers will occur at times in the northern, eastern and north central provinces. Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in the western, central and Sabaragama provinces and in Kandy and Mathura district during the afternoon or night. Fairly heavy showers, above 50 millimeters, are likely at some places in the northern, eastern and Uva provinces and in the Polonnaruwa and Mathale district. And that was the weather report. And before we conclude this news broadcast, the headlines again. The Pali and Buddhist University will be reopened only under the guidance and instructions of the Mahanayaka Theros. The new categories of visa will be introduced for the investors of the Colombo port city. Cabinet approval has been granted for the establishment of the Sri Lanka Institution of Economic and Trade Institute. The SLBC says that they will face the upcoming local government election under a strong alliance. A systematic plan has been implemented to increase the power generation capacity of the country. Foreign news, Capitol Riot Committee seeks 4 criminal charges for Trump. In sports, Lionel Messi named BBC Sports Personalities World Sports Star of the Year. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.